you're wrong. If this is a real riot, do you think this is a step forward or backwards for equality?
Debate has raged over whether Orange is the New Black is a comedy or a drama, ever since the Emmys denied its request to be considered as a comedy. The show is always straddling the genre lines.
Lattes got milk. That's what make them lattes. Ain't no black latte, because that would make it like iced coffee or something.
The whole point was to tell the world about Poussey. Tell them what happened to our girl, man. People don't care.
But in season 5, Orange fully embraces its nature as a drama, and the decision to play in close to real time heightens the stakes, setting the whole season over the 3 days of the prison riot, anchoring the drama in a higher level of realism, grappling with the logistics of what would happen and how personality dynamics would develop given this concrete crisis situation. Orange is often called novelistic. It's character-driven, consists of chapters from different points of view, and it meanders on, unconcerned with a rigid structure or unified plot. But that changes, somewhat, in season 5. The prison riot gives the show a cohesive and more demanding plot. We see all the characteristics we know and love now demonstrated neatly through action.
But if you know anything about the history of riots, you know they don't end well. They never end well.
Season 5 is organized around a dramatic structure of dread. Season 4 was all about building up our resentment and anger with the women at the system, embodied by the far more vicious and villainous guards. Season 5 shows the backlash against that within the prison, but we're filled with anxiety, knowing that this can't end well for the women involved. Beware, there are some Season 5 spoilers coming up. Daya, the one at the start of it all, is the first object of that anxiety. But just as the gun passes through the prison, our fears transfer from woman to woman as we see how they interact with the power plays and temptations to seize control. Even those who want nothing to do with it find their future freedom threatened just for being present. We feel tension every time the women act violently toward the guards. On the one hand, we enjoy a catharsis and satisfaction seeing the women get back at the system that has mistreated them. No one is mourning for Humphrey's groin after Daya shoots him, but we fear for Daya's future.
He can't die on us. That's a murder charge. He can't die, please. It's not for him, it's for me.
Consider how, in Shakespeare, the ultimate restoration of the great chain of being would guarantee that order is restored at the end of a play. Here, we know too that the orders that be will be restored. There's no way the women can win in this situation, so the dramatic tension is a crushing anxiety as we watch them get short-term satisfaction and make their long-term lives worse. This has long been Piper's character arc too, the arc of digging oneself deeper.
Oh, hell no.
In addition to its comedy and drama juggling, the show introduces a horror tone. From the first shot of episode 9, a shaky camera looks from behind obstructions, peering in at the women like a voyeur meaning them harm. The monster who emerges is Piscatella, who's broken into the prison and is lurking in the shadows like the villain of a slasher movie.
Where is he? Off playing Jason from Friday the 13th.
The obvious question, once Piscatella has tied up a group of women to watch him violently mutilate Red, is why this man has such a deep desire to hurt and humiliate women. Episode 10 tells us Piscatella's backstory in which his own lover was beaten by other inmates as a backlash for their romantic relationship. It attempts to explain why his heart has become so irrevocably hardened against prisoners, whom he sees across the board as inmate.
Quiet down, inmates! Inmates! Back up! Confirmation, inmate.
Reliable inmates like yourself. What is it, inmate?
This story doesn't totally explain why he especially wants to torture women.
Women don't fear pain the way men do. They have to be broken in other ways, but make no mistake, they have to be broken.
But we're left to assume that the years since hardening his heart against inmates have led to an extreme perversity and pleasure in causing pain to those over whom he holds power. Ultimately, though, Piscatella's backstory isn't there to explain his personal monstrosity, and the horror plot leads to a deeper question running through the season. Who is the real monster? Apart from Piscatella, the obvious villain in recent seasons has been MCC, the for-profit company that's cut spending per inmate and employed untrained guards, treating the prisoners as slave labor and never as human beings. Throughout its seasons, Orange is the New Black grapples with the idea of influence, especially negative influence, the way that bad influences or people in our lives can lead us astray. For Piper in early seasons, her unhealthy relationship with Alex is presented as this influence. For Daya, that influence seems to be her mom.
She's my friend.
She ain't gonna get no boricua. Be your own friend.
Season 5 explicitly articulates the show's bigger thesis, that the ultimate negative influence in all of these women's lives is the prison system. The real monster in this horror movie is prison itself.
I want to punch the prison industrial complex.
So punch the pillow!
Whichever side of the bars people fall on, prison has turned all of these people into monsters.
Like, I used to be able to get through it, but now I can't really even get myself up and out of bed. It's like there's like less air in here to breathe or something. The sad truth of it is that everybody in here is gonna be way worse than how they were when they started.
The government gives tax credits to companies that hire vets. You get more money the longer the vet's been out of work. And it is double that if they're on crutches or in a wheelchair or something like that.
A real stroke of genius in Season 5 is having the character who most embodies the MCC mindset, Linda from Purchasing, who's never actually been inside a prison before, gets stuck inside the prison during the riot.
We need to work on your posture.
I have an anterior pelvic tilt.
You have anterior white privilege. You look like you have too much to live for.
Walk with oppression. Let me see some persecution in those shoulders.
Her journey as an undercover inmate raises one of the key questions of the season. Could a person like Linda actually come to care about these women behind bars, and even try to use her position of privilege to make their lives a little more livable?
She reminds me of me. How I was, but more annoying.
At the beginning of the series, Piper was the Trojan horse to get white middle-class viewers into the show, which no longer even really pretends that she's the main character any more than 5 or 12 others. But while Piper may be annoying to some,
My eyes are all puffy.
You're worried about how you look?
Well, they're gonna know that I was crying. It's a sign of weakness. You can't show any weakness. That's what all of the books said.
Oh, sweetie.
Linda represents a far more insidious form of privilege, callousness, and capitalist greed. The question posed now is, can she, like Piper, learn anything from being immersed in this environment? Can she be reformed? When we see her protesting the conditions of the prison food,
These are substandard conditions. We need better food, better quality uniforms. This is a tier 2 facility. Whatever they're paying for this crap, they're getting ripped off.
we see how her skills and insider knowledge would be amazingly useful if she switched sides. Episode 3 gives us a backstory from her sorority days, in which she leaves her too drunk friend to die and then, far from feeling bad about it, capitalizes socially on the event. We see the birth of wily Linda from Purchasing with an ingenious mind for self-preservation, who will never let scruples stop her from getting ahead, who, above all, totally lacks empathy. In episode 10, Linda says the magic words.
Once we start down these paths, it's really hard to get off of it, you know?
Yeah, I empathize.
I empathize. After taking off her expensive, painful heels and walking a mile in Pensatucky's shoes, a miracle has occurred. She's grown a heart.
I'm sorry.
The show immediately backtracks from this moment when Doggett soon punches Linda in the face for stealing her best friend and then says without irony,
You know, women gotta start being nicer to one another.
Orange is the New Black won't let an earnest moment hold too long without stepping in with a joke.
Arrest Bailey. He's not 1 or 2.
9. Between internet and flaming hot Cheetos in the commissary.
No Takis? Man, you gotta have both of them. Hot Cheetos and Takis. Hot Cheetos and Takis. You can catch me in my crew eating hot.
But here, the impossible has happened. Linda has learned to feel something. The show itself, which has been termed an empathy drama by Vox and others, is seeking to provoke the same reaction in us, to make us care about people who lead difficult lives. Yet, perhaps at the same time, the show demonstrates the limits of that very empathy. We may feel for Doggett and Maria and Suzanne and Tasty, yet how much does that feeling in itself actually do for the real-life women who might be their counterparts in our world? And while Linda cares now, since she's still trapped, and the season leaves her still absurdly and ironically unable to convince anyone that she's not an inmate.
I work at MCC. You have to get me out of here. If you talk to Joe Caputo...
Yeah, I work at MCC too. Help me. Help me.
Yeah, I work at MCC too.
I work for MCC.
Yeah,
work.
me too.
MCC. No. No.
103. 104.
The question is whether, once she's out of danger, she'll continue to care enough not to still choose the expedient, self-serving, easy option over helping to improve these women's situations. Ultimately, even if Linda from purchasing has a change of heart, she's still one person in a toxic system. And if this season, with its intense real-time action, tells us anything, it's that the prison industrial complex as a whole traps, hardens, and harms everyone who comes in contact with it.
It's like I'm a fucked up shit magnet.
It ain't you. Prison's the magnet.